Hello friends of the electrified charging fun and welcome to Electrified Speicher, your channel all around Skoda e-mobility. Behind me you can see an ELROQ and an ENYAQ. And when you compare them to each other, this is the boring task because they are basically the same. Yet the biggest difference is the boot or the trunk, because the ELROQ is 17 centimeters shorter and somewhere you have to spare those 17 centimeters, and this is the trunk. And the question I get quite often is, but is it really worth paying the surplus of the ENYAQ for the space in the trunk? Today is the day where we look at it, because you see a lot of accessories here. You see stuffs for moving, for dogs, for going on vacation, and we see how much fits into which trunk, and so you can make a decision on your own whether an ELROQ or an ENYAQ is the right car for you. And even though this is a model year 2024, not an ENYAQ facelift, you can apply everything you see here to the ENYAQ facelift as well, because the boot, the trunk isn't changed. So this works there as well. And now let's go and let's pack some stuff into the trunks. First things first, let's do some measurements. I already done this in several videos, but just to be precise, let's get some data here. And if I measure the size of the boot, we are talking about 86 centimeters when the rear seats are up. And for the width of this trunk, we are talking about exactly 1 meter. The height, when we put down that cover here, is 51 centimeters. If you go under this. But you can only do this if you do not have a charging cable here. If you put the charging cable here, you lose a bit of height. So let's only measure up to the bottom here, and this is 46 centimeters of space. And if I remove the cover and again look at the height, then we are talking about 77 centimeters here from the bottom to the roof. Now let's quickly fold the rear seats and keep the front seats in a position for driving for people at around 1.80 m. So we can see what we can put in now, and this is 1.70 m. If you adjust the front seats, I would bet you get 1.80 m inside of this car in length. But let's stick with the folded rear seats for a moment and have a better look inside. And what you see now is that you do not have an even bottom of your trunk here. You have this little step here in front. And otherwise in the ENYAQ, you can level the rear part of your trunk so it matches the height of the folded rear seat. There is no option to do so in the ELROQ. If we now compare the ENYAQ to the ELROQ, and again I'll measure the size, I'll go to the plastic part here, not at the outmost back here. So then we are talking about 93 centimeters. And if I take the width, you will be surprised, because it's exactly the same as with the ELROQ. It's exactly 1 meter. Simply because both cars have the same width, yet this car is shorter. You don't see the cover here, but it goes into this slide here. And if I do the measurement here, you can see we are talking about 49 centimeters. And if I remove the cover like I did here, then we are talking about 73 centimeters. And now let's fold the rear seat. And due to the equipment of my ENYAQ, I can do it with the levers here. The ELROQ doesn't have them. And now let's do the measurement here again. We are talking about 1.81 m. And it is easy to get that to 1.90 m. And the difference in the transport package you can see here. It's now easy to level the floor like this. And now you have a complete even floor, which is great, for example, for camping. Let's talk a bit about the accessories you get when you buy a Skoda ELROQ, because this differs hugely from the ENYAQ. You get this little thing, I explain in a minute, and you get this double-sided cover. Here you've got the one with the smooth side for dirty stuff, yet you can flip it over and then it looks the same as the lower floor. This is quite handy. let's put that aside. Now let's talk about this cover here. Because basically it's a traditional cover as you know it from a lot of cars, like this. And you can use it like this. Yet Skoda thought about this and said, well, we can make good use of it for another thing, because you can remove this cover and put it in a lower position. Therefore, you have two notches here. And if you do so, you get a multi-level storage system in your ELROQ, like this. Now you have the lower compartment and an upper compartment. Of course, you can flip it to the top like this, yet now you can't attach the strings anywhere anymore. But if you need it, you can do it. And this thing is quite sturdy, so yes, if you need it, maybe or maybe not. Now let's remove the cover. Now we can talk about this thing here. This thing comes with the ELROQ, and for this you've got 3 attachment points on each side, here, here and here, where you can hang this in like this. And then you can put it here to get a bigger space to put, for example, wet clothes on or something like this, or you can hang it here on this side for an umbrella or something which is wet and you want to keep it away from the bottom of your boot. And of course you can do it like this. That works also if you want to use it on those two. By the way, one simply clever feature is when you look at that cover here, that you can stow it away in a very efficient way without removing it from the car. And this is how you do it. First, release it, then release the back seat. You do not have to fold them, simply release them to get a bit more space, and then just put that cover behind these notches here. Locks the seats again, and here you go. You have your cover stowed away. Of course, it's not as convenient as in the ENYAQ, where you can stow it down here, but that is still a very convenient way to get way more room in your boot and have the cover with you. When it comes to the ENYAQ, the cover on the rear is a complete different story than in the ELROQ, because here you have a slidable cover and there is no second position to put it in, because it simply does not make sense. You only have this reinforced fabric here, so you can't put really stuff on it. But a slidable cover has the ability to slide, and that's quite handy. And if you need even more space without removing it, you simply can flap this thing over, and yes, that is plenty of space to use. You can of course remove it. And if you remove this cover, well, you see, it's way more handy than the cover, the fixed cover in the ELROQ. And if you've got the transport package in the ENYAQ, it's quite easy to fit it down in here, because there's a special place to put it, like this. And it perfectly fits in, so that you can put down the floor and you have an even and a leveled floor in your ENYAQ. One thing you get with the transport package, no matter if you've got the ELROQ or the ENYAQ, are those nets. I just put the one here on the left side. You've got a second one for the right side and a third one for the floor. And these nets are quite handy. First, you can put stuff in those, but I only use the one on the left side in my ENYAQ to keep the charging cable in place. Yet you can use any other method you like, but therefore this one is quite handy. Both cars are equipped with a transport package, meaning it has that insert here where you can put stuff in it. You can also remove it. One of the differences now between the ENYAQ and the ELROQ when it comes to the transport package and additional storage in the trunk. Well, one difference you might already notice is the side. Well, the ENYAQ does not have any shelves here, the ELROQ has. Yet, let's talk about that insert and that storage box down here. Removing the insert is quite easy. Just take it out. And then you can have, again, a leveled floor, putting this piece back in. And here you go. A perfectly leveled yet lower floor. And now let's directly look at the box down there. Let's get a bit closer and look down. This box here can take additional stuff like I did. You see what's all in there is a lot of stuff, and more and more and more. Yes, forget about it. So you can fit additional stuff in here. What you see here is the subwoofer from the Canton sound system. If you don't have this system, the box is even larger. Yet this storage goes for the subwoofer, but you see how much fits in there. Now let's move over to the ELROQ, because the ELROQ is a bit different. And if you look at the ELROQ right now, you can see it has a different insert, which has a different layout. Yet, of course, here you see, by the way, the shelves I was talking about, where you could put in stuff, but no charging cable, therefore it's under the cover. And of course you can remove this insert and again make it a leveled floor by putting this cover back in. Yet you will notice something. It's not as convenient as with the ENYAQ. It comes with a little problem. Here at the end, where the rear seats are attached, you run into a blocker. You can't go any further, so you lose the last 5 centimeters here. This is not as good as with the ENYAQ. And now let's see if I could fit everything from my ENYAQ, which I transport in that insert and in that storage compartment down here, if that would fit into the ELROQ. As you saw, everything fits into the ELROQ from my ENYAQ. There's even more space down here to fit even more stuff in it than in my ENYAQ. Available for the ELROQ as well as for the ENYAQ is this boot net partition thingy here. I can only show you this with the ENYAQ because I have no ELROQ available which has this thing. And basically it's that net that you can place behind the rear seats and behind the front seat. If you want this, you cannot buy it afterwards because the fixed points up in the roof, the 4, needs to be built in it at the factory. Those cannot be retrofitted, so if you don't have them, you can't buy that afterwards. Keep that in mind. To put that in your car, well, it's quite easy. You do it like this. You go to one of those fixed points, go to the other one up here, and then you've got those clips and you put them in down here and you're already done. And you have a protection net here that nothing can fly over the rear seats up towards the drivers or the passengers. To make it more realistic, we start by folding the rear seat, and of course the headrest can be moved a bit out, and then you've got an even leveled floor. The middle headrest, however, cannot be moved that far, therefore I'll detach it and put it right behind the middle console in that little plastic box where it fits perfectly. Now we can already put the boot net partition in, and you'll understand why those straps are such long straps, to reach all the way down here to the bottom to mount them up here. And here we go. And then we simply need to clip them in here at the bottom. And here you go. You have the net behind the front seats. And again, you get good protection for everything that might fly around your car and could potentially injure you. And if you go on a journey, you have some luggage to carry. And for example, I have here 4 pieces, 2 bigger ones and 2 smaller ones. This is the typical airplane size, which you can fit into the cabin with 35 liters. This is much bigger. And now let's first store them in with the cover removed. We do this with the cover inside the car later. And you will see there is no real problem to fit all those luggage into our ELROQ. Yet there's still a bit of room in front here, yet not much. And you can still store a bit up here, but you are limited right now. If you do the same with the ENYAQ, you will notice that there is plenty of more space available to store more items in the car. You see it here in the front. There's way more space to put stuff here. Now let's do something different and try to put those into the car in another way, like this. And you don't get into any troubles here. You can do this in the ENYAQ quite easy, and this also leads to something else. You could even fit 4 of those in here, because you can place 2 like this and put 2 additional ones here in the front. If you now try the same in the ELROQ, put the first one here, the second one here, well, it works flawlessly. But if you do this, you're running into problems, because now this is standing too much out. You can't close the trunk anymore. Therefore, you can't fit 4 of those like this into the car, otherwise than with the ENYAQ. Yet, you can still fit those 2 in like this, and put those 2 in like that. And it's also perfectly fine. So you have several options of getting an enormous amount of luggage inside the car. But what if you've got the cover on top? Now the covers are placed again in the car, and let's fit in some luggage. And as you can see, there's no problem with the ENYAQ to put that in. And there's no problem to do the same here in the ELROQ. The cover is closed down, it's not standing up, and you can fit it in. Yet if you move more to the middle, where the charging cable is, it gets a bit complicated. It works, but there's not much room left. Yet you could fit them in like this. And of course, you could fit in a second one like this. And those 2 would also fit. See here, 1 and 2. And the ELROQ is perfectly packed right now. You still have a bit of space here in the front, yet not much. If we do the same with the ENYAQ, you will notice the difference directly. You can see it already now that there is way more space in front than with the ELROQ, like here. And of course, I can fit in the last one like this. And if you see this, you will know now that with the ELROQ you have a bit less space, yet it perfectly works with all of this luggage stored into both cars. Of course, the ENYAQ could load more because it's simply a bigger car. Well, traveling is one use case. The other is moving stuff around. And to showcase this, I have 4 moving boxes here in a normal size, at least here in Switzerland. Yes, you could have them even bigger, a typical moving box. And it fits. And you could fit in a second one, but of course not a third one. But you could try something like this. And you will see this will not work with your ELROQ. Maybe you can close the lid if you press and try it. Let's try it. But this is it. More? No. You see, of course, if we remove the cover again, you might fit another box on top. Let's see if we can do this, but I'm not very confident. No, you can't. Maybe, no, I don't think so, but let's give it a try like this. Yes, there is no more air between the window and the box, but yes, this would work. So yes, 3 boxes are possible without folding the rear. If you fold the rear, you get a lot of more space, but it's not about folding the rear here. As we already saw with the measurement, then we could fit in way more, and we I think we do not need to compare that. The more important comparison is with the seats folded up. Now let's do the same here with our ENYAQ. Of course, like this you can fit in two. Very easy. You have still room here. A third one wouldn't fit because it's the same width. But what about this? And we directly see this works. These three containers fit in perfectly. Here's plenty of room. I do not even need to close the trunk to see that this will work. Okay, let's try this. And you see it doesn't fit. Here you see the height difference between the ELROQ and the ENYAQ. Whilst I get that box into the ELROQ, I can't fit it in the ENYAQ because here are some centimeters less. So therefore, at this level, we have to admit, even in the ENYAQ, you can only fit 3 of these boxes without folding the rear. But of course, you can now say, let's try something else. You could store the boxes like this. Let's try this. But to do so meant that you have to pack them accordingly, that you can flip them over, which is not very practical. And still, now you can see you can fit in that box. It's only a few centimeters, but it will not work because it's way out of the trunk. The way you can fit 4 of these boxes into the ENYAQ is like this, if you put the upper box on its side. Yet normally you don't do this with when moving, because the stuff in there is not packed for laying this box. But yes, of course, if you do it like this, they fit. But now you might say, hey Matthias, you've got that double storage floor here and not everyone has the transport package. What about the space for all your boxes if you remove this? You're right, let's do this. Let's get these things out here. And first off, let's measure how high that storage here is. And yes, we are talking about 10 centimeters of storage from this little box here. So let's take it out. Now we have 10 centimeters more. Put that floor back in. And now let's see how we can fit in our boxes. So we fit in the first one, we fit in the second one, we fit in the third one, yet it doesn't fit perfect. A little notch is here on the back plastic cover. You can't put it down, no way. No, it's not working. But that doesn't mean that the fourth box does not fit in. Well, we all know this won't work. But what about this? Because now it might fit. Let's see. And there you go. Without any problem, now there are 4 boxes in the ELROQ, and still there is plenty of space left, so you could probably fit in even more stuff if needed. Now let's do the same with the ENYAQ. Let's remove the transport package or the box of the transport package from the car and see how much space we gain. So first the cover, and then the box. And here you can already see it. This box has a height of around 5.5 centimeters. So it's a bit more than half of the ELROQ's box. And you guessed it, now you will see a big difference in comparison to the ELROQ with the third box here. If I measure the size, you see here's plenty of space left. And yes, you've got around 10 centimeters between the plastic and the box here, and even 14 centimeters in the front here. And of course you can now easily fit the fourth box in upright standing, so this is much better. Yet you've got plenty of additional space in here. Now the question could arise, could you fit in a fifth box? The first thing you could do is try this, but that won't work. As you can see, it's nearly closed, yet it doesn't. the box bends a lot, therefore this is not an option even if it would close. Another thing would be putting two boxes up here, yet you already know this won't work either. It's way too much out here. So let's keep it that way before I play even more Tetris on my car and bore you. 4 boxes is no problem here, and you've got a lot of more storage left. Switching perspective, and we are at the front of the car, and as you might know, the MEB platform doesn't have a frunk, so a trunk in the front. Therefore they do not have a gas lever here which would lift the hood automatically. You have this one here. Yet in the accessory department you will find 2 manufacturers who build these plastic balls where you can fit in stuff. This one is from Frunk AT from Austria. There's also a version from EV Accessories from Ireland. I have tested both. You find the videos here on the channel. And we all know this one here is specifically made for the ENYAQ, and it fits in here perfectly, supported here on that beam perfectly fine. But would that frunk, and so the Irish frunk, also fit the ELROQ? Let's find out. Let's switch over to the ELROQ here and see what happens. And if I put that one in, you will first notice that it might fit. There you go, same position. Yet it's not sitting tight here in the front, because if you put it on like this, it's not made for this car. Here's some changes in that engine compartment compared to the ENYAQ, and the manufacturers need to adjust their frunk. So I would not recommend you to buy the ENYAQ frunk to put it in that ELROQ. Of course, you could do even more comparisons, more use cases, more stuff. But I'm pretty sure that this gives you a very comprehensive overview over everything you can do, be it with an ENYAQ or be it with an ELROQ. And both are really spacious cars. Maybe now you can easily decide whether you need that 17 centimeters more or not. And we didn't even talk about what you can put into the car when you fold the rear seats, or talking about all the storage possibilities in the interior, where they are mostly the same, I have to admit, because in the interior they're basically the same car. And the transport package, for example, is a thing I would order when I get either an ENYAQ or an ELROQ. It doesn't cost that much, yet it gives you a versatility when it comes to storage small parts. Both cars are really good when it comes to transport whatever you need to transport. And I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up and consider to subscribe if you're not already subscribed to this channel, so you do not miss out any new content. Also, a big thanks to all my supporters. You really help me make this channel and all those detailed videos possible. If you want to support me, you will find a PayPal link down in the description. For a small donation, I would be very grateful for this. And then I hope we see each other in the next video, and until then, stay full of energy.